Hello, hi, good morning, all of you. We are continuing our reading of R.K. Narayan's book, Swami and Friends. We are on chapter, nearing the last end of chapter 16, near the end of the book, the day of the match. This is the situation is where Swami has disappeared and his parents are very, very much worried what has happened to him. And now his father has stepped out in the dark, in the night, looking for him. He went around to the hospital, but he did not have the courage to go into the hospital to look for his son because he was afraid he might beat a body lifeless or half alive and in bad shape. He was very much afraid, so he did not enter the hospital. He walked on. He swiftly passed through 11th Street and crossed the rough footpath leading to the river. His pace slackened as he approached the river. He tried to convince. So now probably the body is floating in the river. He's going towards the river. He tried to convince himself that he was about to do a piece of work which was a farce. But if the body of his son, sodden and bloated, should be seen stuck up among the reeds and rocking gently on the ripples, he shut his eyes and prayed, "Oh God, help me." He looked far up and down the river, which was gliding along with gentle music. The massive peepal trees overhanging the river sighed into the night. He started violently at the sight of the flimsy shadow of some branch on the water, and again some float kept tilting against the moss-covered parapet with muffled thuds. And then, still calling himself a fool, he went to the Malgudi railway station and walked a mile or so along the railway track, keenly examining the iron nails and the sleepers, the ceaseless hum and the shrill whistle of the night insects, was the whirring of bats and the croaking of frogs, came through the awful loneliness of the night. He once stopped with a shudder to put his finger on some wet patch on the rails. As he held up the finger and examined it in the starlight and found that it was only water and not blood, he heaved a sigh of relief and thanked God. So that is that chapter, the day of this is the Swami disappears chapter 16. Now chapter 17, the day of the match. A narrow road branching to the left of the trunk road attracted Swaminathan because it was shaded by trees bearing fruits. The white ball-like wood apple, green figs, and the deep purple chugenia peeped out of thick green foliage. He walked a mile and did not like the road. It was utterly deserted and silent. He wished to be back in the trunk road, in which there was some life and traffic, though few and far between. Some country car lumbering along, or an occasional motor car with trunks and bedding strapped behind, whizzing past and disappearing in a cloud of dust, or groups of peasants moving on the edge of the road. But this branch road oppressed him with its stillness. Moreover, he had been wandering for many hours away from home, and now longed to be back home. He became desperate at the thought of home. What fine things the cook prepared, and how mother always insisted upon serving ghee and curds herself. Oh, how he would sit before the leaf and watch mother open the cupboard and bring out the aluminium curd pot, and how soft and white it was, as it noiselessly fell on the heap of rice on the leaf and enveloped it. A fierce hunger. So he is giving us a picture how they ate. There would be a banana leaf placed, and on that the rice would be put, and the curds would be put on top of it. Curds means yogurt would be put on top of it, and the watch his mother open the cupboard and bring out the pot, and how soft and white it was as it noiselessly fell on the heap of rice on the leaf and enveloped it. A fierce hunger now raged within him. His thighs were heavy, and there was pain round his hips. He did not notice it, but the sun's rays were coming obliquely from the west, and the birds were on their homeward flight. When hunger became unbearable, he plucked and ate fruits. There was a clean pond nearby. He rested for some time and then started to go back home. The only important thing now was home, and all the rest seemed trivial beside it. The board school affair appeared inconsequent. He marveled at himself for having taken it seriously and rushed into all this trouble. What a fool he had been! He wished with all his heart that he had held out his hand when the headmaster raised his cane. Even if he had not done it, he wished he had gone home and told his father everything. Father would have scolded him a little in case he went too far. Granny and mother could always be depended upon to come to his rescue. All this scolding and frowning would have been worthwhile, because father could be depended upon to get him out of any trouble. People were afraid of him, and what foolishness to forego practice with the match only 2 days ahead. If the match was lost, there was no knowing what Rajam would do. I mean, so many problems for this little Swaminathan. He is hungry, he is tired, and he is thinking of home, and he is wishing this and that. Meanwhile, Swaminathan was going back towards the trunk road. He thought he would be presently back in it, and then he had only to go straight, and it would take him right into Market Road, and from there he could reach home blindfold. His parents might get angry with him if he went home so late, but he could tell them he had lost his way. Or would that be too mild? Supposing he said that he had been kidnapped by Pathans and had to escape from them with great difficulty. His mind is very keenly working upon stories to tell his parents as to what had happened. He felt he had been walking long enough. He ought to have reached the trunk road long ago. But as he stopped and looked about, he found that he was still going along the thick avenue of figs and wood apple. The ground was strewn with discolored, disfigured fruits and leaves. The road seemed to be longer now than now that he was going back. The fact that he had unconsciously followed a gentle, imperceptible curve as the road cunningly branched and joined the Mempi Forest Road. So, the fact was that he had unconsciously followed a gentle curve and got into a different road. Some 70 miles further, it split into a number of rough, irregular tracks, disappearing into the thick belt of Mempi forests. If he had just avoided the deceptive curve, he would have reached the trunk road long ago. Night fell suddenly, and his heart beat faster. His throat went dry, and he realized that he had not reached the trunk road, so he is lost. The trees were thick, and the road was still narrow. The trunk road was broader, and there the sky was not screened by branches. But here one could hardly see the sky. The stars gleamed through the occasional gaps overhead. He quickened his pace, though he was tired. He ran a little distance, his feet falling on the leaf-covered ground with a sharp rustling noise. The birds in the branches overhead started at this noise and fluttered their wings. In the deep darkness and stillness, the noise of fluttering wings had an uncanny, ghostly quality. Swaminathan was frightened and stood still. He must reach the trunk road and thence find his way home. He would not mind even if it were 12 o'clock when he reached the trunk road. There was something reassuring in its spaciousness and in the sparseness of vegetation. But here the closeness of the tree trunks and their branches intertwining at the top gave the road the appearance of a black, bleak cavern with an evil spirit brooding over it. The noise of the disturbed birds subsided. He started on again. He trod warily so as not to make a noise and disturb the birds again, though he felt an urge to run with all his might and reach the trunk road and home. The conflict between the impulse to run and the caution that counseled him not to run was fierce. As he walked noiselessly, slowly, suppressing the impulse to run on madly, his nerves quivered with the strain. It was as if he had been rope walking in a gale. His ears became abnormally sensitive. They caught every noise his feet made with the slightest variations. His feet came down on the ground with a light tick or a subdued crackle or a gentle swish according to the object on the ground. Small dry twigs, half green leaves, or a thick layer of dry withered leaves. If it was small dry twigs, there would be a light tick. If it was a half green leaf, then it would be a subdued crackle. If it was all dried leaves, a heavy, thick layer of leaves, dried leaves, it would be a gentle swish. There were occasional patches of bare, uncovered ground, and there the noise was a light thud, or pit-pat, 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 in monotonous repetition. Every noise entered Swaminathan's ears. For some time he was conscious of nothing else. His feet said, pish, 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 pit-pat, swish, swish, clack, clack. Endlessly, there were like sinister whispers calling him to a dreadful sacrifice. He clearly heard his name whispered. There was no doubt about it. Swami, 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 the voice said, and then the dreadful suggestion of a sacrifice. It was some devil coming behind him noiselessly and saying the same thing over and over again. And deep into his ears, he stopped and looked about. There the immense monster crouched, with its immense black legs wide apart and its shadowy arms joined over its head. It now swayed a little. He dared not take his eyes off it for fear that it might pounce upon him. He stood frozen to the ground and stared at this monster. Why did it cease its horrid whispers the moment he turned back? He stood staring. He might have spent about 5 minutes thus, and then the first thrill of fear subsided. He saw a little more clearly and found that the monster consisted of massive tree trunks and their top branches. He continued his journey. He was perhaps within a yard of the trunk road, and afterwards he would sing as he sauntered home. He asked himself whether he would rest a while on the trunk road or go without stopping home. His legs felt as if they had been made of stone. He decided that he would sit down for some time. When he reached the trunk road, it did not matter. The trunk road was safe and secure even at 12 o'clock in the night. If he took a rest, he would probably be able to run home. He came to a clearing. The stars were visible above. The road wound faintly in front of him. No brooding darkness, no clustering crowded avenue here. He felt a momentary ecstasy as he realized that he had come to the trunk road. It bore all the characteristics of the trunk road. The sight of the stars above, clear and uninterrupted, revived him. As he paused and watched the million twinkling bodies, he felt like bursting into music out of sheer relief. He had left behind the horrid, narrow, branch-roofed road. At this realization, his strength came back to him. He decided not to waste time in resting. He felt fit to go forward, but presently he felt uneasy. He remembered clearly that the branch road began at right angles to the trunk road, but here it continued straight. He stood bewildered for a moment and then told himself that it was probably a continuation of the branch road, a continuation that he had not noticed before. Whatever it was, the trunk road must surely cut this at right angles, and if he turned to his right and went forward, he would reach home. He looked to his right and to his left, but there was not the faintest trace of a road anywhere. He soon explained to himself that he was probably not able to see the trunk road because of the night. The road must be there all right. He turned to the right, took a step or two, and went knee-deep in a quagmire. He waded through it and went forward. Long spiked grass tickled his face, and in some places he was lost in undergrowth. He turned back and reached the road. Presently, he realized his position. He was on an unknown distant road at a ghostly hour. Till now, the hope that he was moving towards the familiar trunk road sustained him, but now even the false hope had gone. He became faint with fear. When he understood that the trunk road was an unreal, distant dream, his legs refused to support him. All the same, he kept tottering onwards, knowing well that it was a meaningless, aimless march. He walked like one half stunned. The strangeness of the hour, so silent indeed that even the drop of a leaf resounded through the place, oppressed him with a sense of inhumanity. Its remoteness gave him a feeling that he was walking into a world of horrors, subhuman and supernatural. He collapsed like an empty bag and wept bitterly. He called to his father, his mother, his granny, Rajam, and Mani. His shrill, loud cry went through the night, past those half-distant black shapes looming far ahead, which might be trees or devils or gateposts of inferno. Now he prayed to all the gods that he knew to take him out of that place. He promised them offerings, 2 coconuts every Saturday to the elephant-faced Ganesha, a vow to roll bare-bodied in dust, beg and take the alms to the Lord of Tirupati. Beg and take the alms, Lord. He paused as if to give the gods time to consider his offer and descend from their heights to rescue him. Now his head was full of wild imaginings. He heard heavy footfalls behind, turned and saw a huge lump of darkness coming towards him. It was too late. It had seen him. Its immense tusks showed faintly white. It came roaring, on the way putting its long trunk around a tree and plucking it out by the roots and dashing it to the ground. He could see its small eyes red with anger, its tusks lowered, and the trunk lifted and poised ready. He just rolled to one side and narrowly escaped. He lay panting for a while, his clothes wet with sweat. He is in such delirium that he is imagining so many things. He heard stealthy footsteps and a fierce growl, and before he could turn to see what it was, heavy jaws snapped behind his ears. puffing out foul breath on his nape. He had the presence of mind to lower his head and lie flat, and the huge yellow and black tiger missed him. Now a leopard, now a lion, even a whale, now a huge crowd, a mixed crowd of wild elephants, tigers, lions, and demons surrounded him. The demons lifted him by his ears, plucked every hair on his head, and peeled off his skin from head to foot. Now what was this coiling around his legs, cold and slimy? He shrank in horror from a scorpion that was advancing with its sting in the air. No, this was no place for a human being. The cobra and the scorpion were within an inch of him. He shrieked, scrambled to his feet, and ran. He kept looking back. The scorpion was moving as fast as he. There was no escaping it. He held his breath and with the last ounce of strength, doubled his pace. He had touched the other wicket and returned, and in 2 runs he stood with the bat. The captain of the YMU bowled and he hit a sixer. The cheers were deafening. Now suddenly all that delirium is over and he is now thinking, having a dream of playing the match. And he has hit the ball and he has taken 2 runs to the wicket and back. The next ball he has hit a sixer. The cheers were deafening. Rajam ran round the field in joy, jumped up the wall and down thrice. The next ball was bowled. Instead of hitting it, Swaminathan flung the bat aside and received it on his head. The ball rebounded and speeded back towards the bowler, the Board High School headmaster. He was the bowler. His delirium is so bad. He is now imagining the Board High School headmaster was the bowler. But Swaminathan ran after the ball, overtook it halfway and caught it, and raising his arm, let it go with a terrific force towards the captain's head, which was presently hit and shattered. The MCC had won, and their victory was marked by chasing the YMU out of the field with bricks and wickets, bats and balls, and Swaminathan laughed and laughed till he collapsed with exhaustion. I think we'll stop here. The chapter is long and still continues, so we'll carry it on another day. Thank you and bye-bye.